Today we're going to talk about explanation texts and some of the features and how we write them, because at the end of the week you're going to be writing an explanation text about what a fossil is and how they're formed. So do make sure that you have watched the video from yesterday from the Natural History Museum that does explain it and done the quiz. And if you find that you get the answers wrong and you're not sure, do a little bit more research about what a fossil is. There's lots of really good videos and pictures out there that will explain all about fossils. Today we're looking at this explanation text to find features. What is evolution? When you think about evolution, it is very easy to confuse lots of different things. Let's take a look at the main ideas and see how they all fit together. Now, often with explanation texts, we say you need to write formally. This explanation text is clearly aimed at an audience of people around your age or a little bit older. So there are some slightly informal things in this explanation text. We'll have a look at those as we go through. So this is the very beginning bit that we looked at. What is evolution? When you think about evolution, it is very easy to confuse lots of different things. Let's take a look at the main ideas and see how they all fit together. So what's the purpose of this first part? What is it for? It's an introduction. It's just a couple of sentences and it introduces us to what the text is going to be about. So what's the text going to be about? About evolution. We're going to look at what the purpose is of each paragraph. What is the point of it? Because paragraphs are sections where it's all about the same thing, and you move on to a new section when the subject is different, when we've changed what we're talking about. So let's have a look at this. Evolution is the process of a species changing over time. This normally takes thousands of years to make significant changes. Evolution occurs when an individual living thing is born with a genetic mutation. A mutation can be anything that makes it different from the rest of its species. It might have slightly more muscle or less fur, for instance. Now, for me, the purpose of this is to introduce evolution. And I would say the title of this, the purpose of this paragraph is to define what is evolution. So if I was going to give it a subheading, I would say, what is evolution? Take some time to read this again and think, well, what is evolution? Because it does explain it really well. It says it's a process of a species changing over time. It's used that technical vocabulary, species. This normally takes thousands of years to make significant changes. So it's talking about something that happens over a really long period of time. Significant changes means changes you can notice. And then it starts talking about genetic mutation, and you can see that that is in italics. That's that slanty writing. Have a think about why that might be in italics. It explains a mutation next. It says a mutation can be anything that makes it different from the rest of its species. And then it gives an example. Think about what that example is. Now, we said in the last section we were going to say that the subheading was, what is evolution? So we're going to read this one and you're going to think about what subheading you would give this one. Lots of genetic mutations are bad. If a tiger was born with a muscle deformity, it might struggle to hunt and would die quickly. These mutations often die out with the individual. However, if a mutation gives the creature a benefit over the others, then that individual may get an advantage and survive. The genetic mutation might pass on to its offspring. This is called natural selection, but is often nicknamed survival of the fittest. It means that the best designed individuals go on to breed. This is the process that Charles Darwin first described, not evolution. So this one's not about evolution anymore. It's part of evolution, but it's something specific. See if you can spot what the whole paragraph is about. And that's usually the subheading that you would give it if you were going to give it a subheading. The subject of the paragraph. For me, I would say something like genetic mutation, or I might go for natural selection. Now I'm going to give you a choice on this one. I'm not going to tell you what you should put, but which subheading do you think is best for this section or paragraph? I'm going to need to read it first. Because genetic mutations are introduced before birth, an individual can't evolve. Evolution happens to species, not individuals. Sometimes an individual might change due to their circumstances. Humans who move to high altitude often develop thicker blood. This is because their body produces more red blood cells to cope with the lower oxygen levels. This is called acclimatization and won't be passed on to their children. There's some really good technical vocabulary in there, but some things like genetic mutations, birth, species, high altitude, oxygen levels, and acclimatization. That's scientific vocabulary that without those terms, you can't really talk about the concept. Here, we've got because something, something, then something, something. Because genetic mutations are introduced before birth, an individual can't evolve. And that is a cause and effect. Because of this, then this. And that happens a lot in explanation texts. So some words have been italicized. That means slanted. For example, acclimatization was italicized. Why do you think that is? So go back through the text you've seen so far and see if you can spot the words that are italicized and write them here. And why? And then give an explanation. Why do you think that they've been italicized? Now, technical or scientific vocabulary. Not all evolution happens at the same speed. The reason that evolution in most species tends to take such a long time is that changes can only be passed on when a species breeds. Right, I can definitely see a couple of things so far that are technical. So we've got evolution, species, breeds. Again, that is vocabulary that is really to do with this subject, and you can't really talk about the subject without it. Lots of species don't breed very often. So we said a little bit that sometimes we're informal. Don't, that contraction. Instead of saying do not, we've got don't. That's okay. It's not too informal. So we need to keep a good level of formality. Can you find any more scientific or technical vocabulary? There's also some really good facts in this paragraph. Right, in this paragraph, we're going to find an example of passive voice. I've given this a subtitle of exceptions. There are some exceptions. Viruses and bacteria evolve exceptionally quickly. Some bacteria can produce a new generation every 10 minutes. Each of these is created, ready to produce another generation straight away. That means that a single bacteria could produce 280 trillion, and then it gives you an example in brackets, that's new cells every day, each day. That's over 2,000 times more than the total number of humans who've ever lived in the history of the world. And that is why scientists struggle to find a vaccine for the common cold or flu. There are just too many mutations and they evolve too quickly. So we have got some explanations in here to explain why something happens at the bottom here. And we've also got some facts in here. We've also got this adverb, exceptionally quickly. But we are looking for a passive voice. Can you spot it? Now, passive voice is when we have two verbs together, and it's usually an is something or a was something. Yeah, we spotted it here. Each of these is created. And what creates them? We don't know necessarily. This is the summarizing paragraph. It's often only one sentence long. Now you know how evolution happens. Keep an eye out for different adaptations in different animals. And there's another piece of technical vocabulary, adaptation. So here is an overview of the things that should be in an explanation text. I've added plus passive voice. Technical vocabulary, really important. Time connectives. Often it's firstly this, then this. If you're talking about evolution, we could talk about firstly a genetic mutation happens, then it is passed down. So those are time connectives. Diagrams that are labelled, title and subtitles. Now, there are often did you know boxes that can engage a reader. You can choose whether to put some did you know in there. A very clear introduction, very important. Although other parts of your text might be able to go in different orders, your introduction is always first and tells us what you are going to be talking about. Now, you're usually writing in the present tense. Evolution is. So when a something dies, it is covered by a layer of. So that is present tense, and also an example of passive voice. See if you can verbally do this. Have a go at just saying it out loud. Explain what a fossil is, how they're created, what evolution is, or how something in your house works. And look back at that poster about things that need to be in explanation text when you're writing about fossils on Friday.